Hey everyone, and welcome to our first episode of the Creative Collective podcast. It's great to have you on board. Joined with my esteemed co-host today, Tim Pierce.
Hi
Nice
guys.
to have you along, Tim. It's
Thank you.
it's good to have you. It's good to have you on board. It's a long it's a long established goal of mine to actually have this podcast. So it's good to have you on board with it. And yeah, so it's episode 1. It's scary. It's brand new. Let's I suppose map it out for everyone and just give everyone an idea of who we are, where we've come from, what we're doing, and ultimately where this podcast is going and what we want to help people with, and all those good things. So I'll start asking you
Cool. Let's go
if
for
you
it.
want. So I obviously know who you are, but the audience doesn't necessarily know who you are. So in a nutshell, who is Tim Pierce? Where is Tim Pierce from? Because you've got an accent that's similar to mine, I would say.
Yep.
Neither of us are where we're from, so
Not Irish.
we're not Irish.
Yep.
But yeah, so just let us know who you are, where you're from, what brings you here, what brings you to this podcast, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Obviously Tim Pierce name. From South Africa originally, Cape Town. It's where I was born and bred, and moved to Ireland about a year and a half ago. Um, Started my photography journey back in South Africa. Um, and probably about 10 years ago, I would say I shot my first wedding. And how I got into it was actually I worked in a camera shop in a retail store, and people used to come in and out all the time. And one day I basically just asked someone, "Can I assist you, or can I second shoot for you?"
Yeah.
And I don't need payment, just want to basically learn the ropes. And with a bit of hesitancy, she eventually said yeah, and basically I assisted her for free. Um, I just held her bag and handed her lenses whenever she needed. And then she said, "All right, bring out your camera and just shoot for yourself, but always pay attention to what I need. So if I'm doing my own thing, you go and capture maybe people conversing." And basically, I built a portfolio on that, and she enjoyed working with me, and I really enjoyed working with her. And basically she said come back the next week, and I did that for a couple of weeks, and built a bit of a portfolio, and that was it really. I invested in more gear, and yeah, it sort of grew from there.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, that's the intro to how I started it.
Yeah, good stuff. And yeah, obviously you said you moved to Ireland a year and a half ago, thereabouts. What was your start like? Yeah, obviously moving to a new country. I've done it myself. It's a scary thing. How did you get established to where you are now in terms of photography and videography within Ireland? And let us know like what kind of photography and videography you do. Like that's also it's also
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, so I didn't even mention the video side earlier, but also do videography, both photo and video. Um, yeah, it was super scary moving to Ireland and sort of starting all over again. But funnily enough, it wasn't my first time doing that. I said I lived in Cape Town, and I actually moved to another city in South Africa called Nelspruit before moving to Ireland. That was about 4 years ago, and I basically started brand new there as well. And so moving to Ireland, obviously it's a whole different country. In South Africa, it was my own people. I knew how weddings happened, and just the culture. And then moving to Ireland, I thought, okay, I have a portfolio. I know how weddings work, and I was wrong. I must admit. Uh, I'm trying to think how I got my first wedding. I basically just joined a whole lot of Facebook groups, and I asked if anyone needed a second shooter. Obviously, I had a pretty extensive portfolio. I've been doing it for a long time, um, but it's scary, sort of advertising and putting yourself out there, and thinking you know exactly how things are going to go. And so I basically put my work out there, and I think you were one of the first people that sort of said, "Yeah, let's give them a go." And I shot a wedding, and I second shooted for someone, and I I needed to be taught a few things. I must admit, it was obviously I know how to handle people, I know how to handle the day, but things just were a bit different compared to South Africa. And I think that was one of the most challenging things coming over is learning how a wedding day happens, and it's not something that's always talked about. Everyone just thinks, oh, you might just you buy a camera and you learn how to take good photos, but there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
And learning those things here was the biggest challenge, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sorry, the video side.
Yeah.
Didn't even touch on that. Actually, my style in general, pretty documentary. I like to sort of capture how the day is as it is. I don't like to try and make things happen. I don't like very posy things. I sort of just let everyone do their thing, and I'm a little fly on the wall.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will sort of say, "Oh, we didn't even notice you." And then I'm like, well, that's exactly how I want it to be. I want you to just go about your day and enjoy it, and I'm just here to capture it, and that's what I do.
Yeah, that's the best way. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why I liked your portfolio to start with, and why we started working together. Is you're very much in line with what I believe a wedding day should look like. I'm not too posy. You've worked enough weddings with me now to know that. I don't like posing couples, so yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's good to see, because obviously you said you've been here a year and a half. It's good to see you so established, shooting weddings as often as you do. And like when I moved over, it was quite a long time before I actually shot my first wedding. Probably my own fault. Well, not really my own fault, but I just didn't have the opportunity to do it. Like, I was working full time, and I had other things kind of on my mind. And so it's good to see that you hit the ground running. And
I mean, to be honest, I think there's a bit of luck involved, and I would say the main thing is having a bit of a portfolio. That's probably been my greatest asset to having moved here, is just meeting people and networking is a big thing, but actually having the photos to back up what you say is very important. And I think that's how I've gotten most of my jobs. That being said, a lot of luck again with the amount of weddings that have happened this year. For the first 6 months, I didn't really do anything. I maybe shot 2 or 3, sort of establishing myself, learning the ropes, just figuring out where we were in Ireland, how we were going to approach moving here. And then basically once I got that all sorted, I think I'm shot maybe over 40 weddings this year. And I don't even think I was shooting that back in South Africa. It just sort of this year boomed a bit. And next year I think I'm already on 35, 40 bookings. So it has all happened so fast. And as I say, I would put it all down to having a big portfolio, or a good portfolio, really. It doesn't have to be huge. I think my first website, I had 6 or 7 weddings on it. And people realized the type of style I had, and that's how it all went from there, really.
Good stuff. All right. So so what brings you to the podcast? Like, what's
I think what brings me to the podcast is you. I mean, and I think we should probably dive into you a bit more, and how your journey got us to here. I'd like to ask you how you got into it. I mean, obviously you're also from South Africa. You moved here 7 years ago?
It's almost 7 years ago now. So I moved over in 2016. My wife and I actually got you Paddy's Day 2016 of all days. We didn't plan ahead. Got you expecting to hire a car and all that good stuff, and arrived, and there was no one in the airport, no one in the hire car place, and we had to catch a train down to Cork. So it wasn't all that fun, to be honest. But as I said earlier, it took me quite a while to get established here. But just to rewind a little bit, as you say, I'm South African. I was born and raised in Johannesburg. Moved over in 2016 to Ireland, and immediately kind of just hit the ground running in terms of full time job. So photography for me was on the back burner for a little bit. Still had a camera, still shot for fun, um, and you know wanted to become established in Ireland, kind of as I was in South Africa. I wasn't a serious wedding photographer back then because I had a variety of different jobs, and um, getting here, I wanted to shoot. I felt a desire to shoot weddings and to get back into it. And it wasn't until 2018 that I shot my first wedding here. Actually, it was with Chris O'Reilly of Fire and Ice. He put a post up on a Facebook group. I can't remember which one it was, but he was looking for a second shooter in Ireland. I was like, well, yeah, I'll do it.
That's a big name drop.
It's a big name drop, but like I owe a lot of what I am now to him. So like everything that I've established here in Ireland kind of goes back to that one second shooting gig that I did for him. So, and I felt ready to do it. I'd upgraded my equipment. I'd finally got the prized possession, the Canon 5D Mark IV, after it had been my wish list for however long it was. I think probably close on like 8 years at that stage.
Oh, wow.
I'd wanted a 5D, and obviously the 5D4 was the current one. And yeah, I went and shot the wedding with him, and just kind of got just fell in love with weddings again. I just fell in love with the art of being a wedding photographer, the art of being, he didn't do any video at that wedding, but video kind of came later. But I just wanted to be a part of it, and it was great to be back into it. I did one of their webinars in late 2018, I think it was, or maybe even early 2019. I can't remember. And then kind of just started advertising, got my website up and running properly at that stage with more of an Irish portfolio, and just went from strength to strength. Like 2020 came. Obviously 2020 was what it was. I had a lot of weddings booked for 2020. Eventually, I think I only shot about 12 of them. So yeah, it wasn't a great year as we all know. But what 2020 did is it actually forced me out of the corporate world, out of a job. COVID came and I suddenly found myself out of a job, and photography and my camera shop at that stage was the only thing I had left. My job was taken away, and I was in the deep end and didn't have anything to do other than photography. And I finally had the guts, out of being forced, to go full time.
Yeah.
And never ever looked back. As I said, I shot about 12 weddings in 2020, which is probably quite a lot, compared to what some people would have shot. 2021 was absolutely crazy. I think I shot about 50 or 60 weddings in 2021, and 2022 I'm finally done with 2022. It feels great. Yeah, I think I've probably finished in about 85 weddings for the year. So I'm looking forward to a good break over December, that's for sure. But
and then we start this.
As if I didn't have enough editing to do. I go and decide that we should shoot a podcast and record a podcast. So
Who needs a break?
Who needs a break? Who needs December? So and yeah, speaking about the podcast, obviously, I did one episode of a podcast with a friend before, and it was his podcast. I don't know where it is. It's probably out on the interweb somewhere. Hopefully, I sound a little bit better. Hopefully I sounded okay at that stage. But yeah, here we are on the podcast. And yeah, the main goal with the podcast, and I think we've kind of agreed on that, is that we both want to help others as much as possible. From shooting with me, and I know shooting with you, and also when we've kind of both shot together with a second shooter and stuff, we both enjoy teaching. We both enjoy sharing what we enjoy. We both enjoy sharing the the art of what we do and why we do it and things like that. And that's kind of why we've established the podcast, to help those who are just getting into photography or videography. It doesn't need to be weddings, but obviously that's what we do, and it's what we, it's our bread and butter. But if we can offer advice, or if we can offer any kind of guidance about the industry or about gear or anything like that, that's why the podcast exists. And going forward, it's not just going to be us. We'll have guests on, we'll have industry leaders, hopefully eventually, that come on board and help encourage others and help build others up, and share their wisdom and their knowledge that we could only ever dream of. And in so doing that, we would also benefit, I suppose, in some way, if we got people on here that we look up to. We'll be sitting here in awe and being like, oh my word, how are they on our podcast? So yeah, that's a goal going forward of the podcast. One of the important things that you touched on just off air there is the community that we've established, the Creative Collective community on Facebook. It's still a baby group.
Yeah.
There aren't many people on there, but our goal is for that to be kind of the place for everyone to come and, share the ups and share the downs, look for advice, offer advice, learn. That's it.
That's it.
Learning it's not what it used to be. It's not in a book. It's, it's on YouTube. It's in Facebook groups.
Yeah.
It's in
talking
person.
to people.
That's it.
That's it.
Like I've learned so much, just experimenting, with different things at shooting weddings, and, like I was showed the ropes with like off-camera flash, for example, and I just ran with that. I've got no formal training in off-camera flash. Someone told me the rough idea of how it works, and I did that. And if it wasn't for someone showing me the ropes and just giving me that little bit of guidance to be like, this is kind of what you want to do, I mean, I wouldn't do it, and I love it. Like.
I mean, I knew nothing about off-camera flash before I met you, and now I think basically throughout our weddings, I mean, we shot one, and then a week later we shot another, and then it just sort of steamrolled, and we've shot probably 30 weddings together, if not more.
I think it's much more than that. I think it's probably close to 40 at this stage.
And I knew absolutely nothing about off-camera flash before we met, and you basically taught me everything I know right now. And some of my favorite shots are off-camera flash, and I had no idea what it was before. I was just like, okay, there's a flash. You put it at a 45-degree angle to the person, and just and hope for the best. And then you just basically taught me, run through this, run through that, and just make these settings the way they are. And position the flash here, maybe brighten it, do this, and I just learned. And that was all you teaching me, just out of let's say the kindness of your heart. I mean, you just that's what we're about, is helping and teaching each other. And even between us, we share a lot of things on WhatsApp, and we'll be like, oh, did you see this? Or maybe check this out. We can try this shot, and tag each other on Instagram, and just we help each other out. And our aim is sort of to help everyone else, and create a community that we can all learn together.
Exactly. And on the topic of sharing things on WhatsApp, would you consider that grizzly bear killing a moose video educational, or is that
was just crazy?
If you're listening to this podcast and you haven't checked that video out, I think it was Stanton Giles, is it? I think he was a videographer, and he was shooting a wedding in, I think, the Pacific Northwest, and just go look for it. Grizzly bear killing a moose. It's horrendous.
Absolutely wild.
So yeah, if Tim ever sends you something on WhatsApp, just be cautious when opening it. That's all I can say.
It's wedding related.
It's wedding related. Yes, it was a wedding videographer, and he got some crazy footage and crazy sounds.
Crazy sound. Yeah,
sounds
it was more the sound than the actual footage itself that got me.
Exactly. All right, so that pretty much wraps up the first episode of the podcast. Like I'm pretty happy to finish up roughly thereabouts. Going forward, we want the podcast to be probably weekly is the goal. We'll, especially over this time now in December, we have some time. I definitely have some time, other than when I'm editing, which is a lot of the time.
9 to 5.
9 to 5 every day. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to this podcast.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be an amazing journey. It's going to be something that it's something that I've wanted to do for a very, very long time. And
It's something we've talked about for 6 months plus.
yeah, easily.
easily.
Yeah. And, yeah, it's gonna be crazy. Like it's still scary. It's scary being on this side of the camera and listening to our voices and hearing all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to having everyone on board. So all I can say is if you've enjoyed the first episode, do subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, be that Spotify, be that Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Feel free to give us a follow over there. Give us a review, a rating. If you're happy with the first episode, if you're undecided, wait for the next couple because they'll probably get better.
Yeah. There'll be more.
And of course, YouTube. This is a video podcast, which is amazing. The benefit of the video podcast is that you get to see our
Amazing faces.
Faces is all I'll say. And yeah, the benefit of that is if we do have something that we need to show our audience, or that maybe our guests need to share with us, or whatever the case may be, we have the video podcast. We can throw it up on YouTube, and it's there as a reference if you ever need it. And it's always great to put a podcast on in the background when you're editing. So be that YouTube, be that Spotify, be that Apple Podcasts, whatever the case may be, catch us over there, and we will see you on the next episode of the Creative Collective.
Thanks,
podcast.
Aaron.
Thank you, Phil.
Cheers.
Cheers.